Yeah, guys, there's some rumors out there. Bob Nightingale's talking about Christian Vazquez, potentially the Cubs. There's rumors with Wilson Contreras going to the Astros potentially. There's also been John Heyman saying that the favorites to land Dansby Swanson are the Cubs. He wrote that up in an article. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I guess we can start with the thing that first happened today, which was Christian Vazquez, I believe is the first thing I saw today anyways. To me, I feel like I don't think they're going to get Sean Murphy, which is kind of out there as a potential target as well. But free agent wise, Christian Vazquez, Omar Narvaez, I've seen that name out there. I actually kind of liked the idea of Narvaez because I feel like if you're going to be cheap at catcher. Like I don't mind it for one season. And I think that he hitting from the left side, he's actually had some pretty good numbers over the years, except maybe not last year. But what are you guys' thoughts about this Christian Vazquez or like the Cubs catcher position as a whole right now? What do you guys think?
I don't mind Christian Vazquez. Like you said, obviously Wilson's out of the picture. We all know that. I wouldn't mind Sean Murphy, but it's obvious I don't think we're going to go after him. I'm pretty sure recently the Guardian said they're going after him. Christian Vazquez wouldn't be a bad option. Yan Gomes isn't going to play he's not going to catch. He won't catch 100 games this year. He might, but I highly doubt he catches 100 games this year. I think he's going to split it with somebody. And Vazquez has experience. He was well liked with Boston. When he left Boston, a lot of people like in their organization was really upset because apparently he is a great clubhouse guy, and obviously he's got experience because back-to-back years he World Series champion this year, and then I think last year he was in the ALCS with the Red Sox. But it wouldn't be a bad ad for the right price, especially if he's going to platoon with another veteran in Yan Gomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Vazquez has a World Series, right? Doesn't Vazquez have one? With the Red Sox. So I believe.
I guess he has two then, because he just won one with the Astros too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then last year, yeah. But that's what I'm thinking. So like, I saw this floating around there, and I want to get Juice's thoughts in a second too on this. I saw this floating around there, like, well, the Astros didn't want him, and now they want the Cubs catcher, so that must make him. What does that tell you? And it's like, okay. One, but let's just kind of – I kind of just want to get this out there real fast. Number one, the Astros are like the prime example of a team that's went cheap at catcher over the years and still won ball games. Like, they have not cared much about their catcher position as a whole from an offensive standpoint. They're also talking about using Wilson Contreras in left field and DHing him. Mm-hmm. So that kind of goes to show you what they think about his defensive capabilities right there. The owner also declined a trade that would have sent, I believe it was Jose Urquidy to the Cubs at the trade deadline, which would have been great for the Cubs. I love Jose Urquidy as a pitcher. Yes. But like, this guy's got World Series experience, postseason experience. He's used to coming through in the clutch. He's a good pitch framer. He's good at throwing guys out, or better than Narvaez. He's above average, really, if you look at it. The power numbers took a dip. I think that 2019 and 20 season for him was like potentially like the juice ball era, helping him out a little bit with the home runs. At least I think his big home run season was like 2019. But so maybe that's why his power production's a little bit down. But he'll hit for average, right? I don't necessarily think that disqualifies him. Like, oh, we're getting worse at the position. Obviously, the Cubs are looking at this from a standpoint willing to let go of Wilson Contreras because they are really putting an importance, I think, on the defensive side of the position and calling a game. He's the second catcher in history to call a no-hitter in the World Series. The second catcher in history. He called that no-hitter. Christian Vazquez did.
It's true.
Tells you something, right? So I don't think it's a situation where the Astros really don't want him. I think they're looking to upgrade the bats. Juice, what are your thoughts on this?
I like it. I think this move in general kind of does two things too, because you're worried about first base, and we saw Higgins play a lot of first base down the stretch as well, and he had a good end to his season. And that's PJ Higgins, the catcher that we had, the backup catcher for the Cubs last year. Now you're able to kind of have more flexibility with him. Maybe you get him over at first a little bit more. Having three catchers on the roster, I think, isn't something that's a bad thing either, especially when one of them can play kind of around the diamond in PJ. But yeah, I was pulling up some of the stats on him and just kind of pulling up some of the things that I like. And if you're talking about, the baseball kind of changing in terms of like the bases being bigger and a lot of the moving part of the game taking the extra bases and things like that. Vazquez cuts down runners, man. He really does. He's great behind the plate. Fifth in here. Let me pull this again. I had all these queued up and then I lost my spot. So extremely well. Fifth in defensive run saved, 11th in framing, and 9th in overall defensive rating among catchers. So I mean, if you're looking at like flipping it and having that guy behind the plate, you can call a game too, and buy you a strike while we still have, real umpires opposed to robot umpires. That's going to be a guy that you could pencil in there and buy some strikes for you and call a good game. I think too, like if you look down the stretch, I know when he got traded over to Houston, if you look at those batting numbers, he got traded over there and didn't have, the best, second half. But I mean, that was in such a limited role. They had Martin Maldonado out there that they loved him calling games. So he was more or less, the platoon catcher. So he never really got like a chance to be that everyday guy again. And he obviously, when he was with Boston, did a really good job of handling those duties. I'm okay with it. And two, like I think that's a good sheep signing. I think the theme for like this episode is going to be guys that we're looking at that aren't going to break the bank, but they're going to win you ball games. There's going to be guys who look 2 to 3 win players that you're like, man, you're buying more out of that guy and you're getting more bang for your buck based on what you're paying that guy. And I think that's a good move for the Cubs, and that frees up more asset to go at bigger positions that I know we're worried about. First base, center field, third base in the future. There's obviously the shortstop market that is looming over us. Maybe that gives you that extra $8 million to bid a little bit over because you're saving at the catcher slot. It's those different moves that I think that guys like Christian Vazquez really kind of, open up for the Cubs and for Jed Hoyer. So I'm for it. This is one of the moves that I actually read and I was like, this just makes sense. There's not very many of those that you see throughout the off season and you see that glaring positional need and you look at what he does well and the way that Jed kind of spoke in that postseason press conference and just kind of said, hey, this is what we need to be better at. And he kind of does those for not a lot of money.